Hello and welcome to the TechRaptor podcast. This is episode 99 of the podcast. My name is Andrew Stretch. I'm going to be the host for today as Scrappy and Otten are off at PAX East at the moment, checking out some cool games. PAX West at the moment. I don't know events. I live in Florida. We never get any. Before we get into the podcast, I just want to say, if you're a fan of what we're doing here, be sure to give us a like, review us, rate us on whatever your podcast platform of choice is. It goes into it, but don't feel sad that we are missing out on Scrappy and Otten this week because we have we have one regular and one fantastic guest. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Rutledge and Erren, site founder.
And I'm Erin Van Dyne, a staff writer.
Excellent. And not just staff writer, but also our reviewer for Starfield. So of all of the people who are playing Starfield early access right now, you guys got early access, and you've been playing, one might probably argue, too much Starfield. So I want to say, Erin, you've played a lot of Starfield. You wrote our review. You gave it an 8 out of 10. So for those who might not have Starfield yet, let us know what it's about, what works well and what doesn't.
Oh, wow. So Starfield, I guess my biggest impression is that if you've ever played a Bethesda game, it is a Bethesda game, and that's pretty much the nicest thing that I can say right out of the gate. And as somebody who did enjoy, Oblivion and things like that, it does kind of open up exactly like that game. And I was like, okay, well, I'm familiar with this, and I was really interested in the space, like sci-fi setting, and everything that they were promising there. So you could almost say that it's like Oblivion in space.
I mean, I feel like that's what people have been saying about Starfield since it was announced. It's just going to be
Yeah, and
Oblivion in
at first
space.
I kind of didn't believe it. I was like, maybe they're going to do something different and maybe do a different formula. But no, it's pretty much the same, like, structured formula that they usually do in their games, which isn't a bad thing.
hmm Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of times in gaming or even in movies, TV shows, you hear like, oh, it's more of X, it's more of Y. And that can sometimes be construed in a negative light, but it's a very personal thing. If you're a fan of Fast and Furious, chances are you're going to enjoy all of them. If you're a fan of a Bethesda game, chances are you'll enjoy all of them.
Are we likening
Yeah,
the Fast and Furious franchise to Bethesda games?
I'm likening the idea that the Fast and Furious movies are copy paste repeat in a similar vein to some franchises.
I mean, they did have that one where they did go into space, so it does fit.
That's true. God, I forgot that they went to fucking space in that movie.
Oh, that movie's
Oh,
Yeah,
bonkers.
yeah.
they did. I mean, that isn't even the most ridiculous thing they've done either. So.
Well, back to Starfield with the shift to Bethesda in space. Maybe Rut, you're more of a gunplay aficionado. Do you feel like there were improvements to the gunplay and the combat?
Yeah, I mean, I think they definitely made strides there. They brought in id to handle the gunplay after it kind of got panned when they first revealed it. So they brought in what I would probably consider one of the biggest shooting experts in the industry, and definitely made improvements. It's not a Fallout shooter, so it's and I say that in a nice way. Like, Fallout shooting is all right, but Starfield's feels a lot better from a gunplay perspective, and there's a pretty wide variety of weapons. I like how they um, kind of scale them up and have a lot of different options across weaponry. Even though I continue to just use the same types of guns over and over again.
Yeah, I ended up using the shotgun mostly, like the whole game once I got it.
Yeah, that was the
That shotgun
Beowulf
is
for
very
me. I
nice.
just tricked that sucker out.
Yeah, I mean, once you get a gun that you like, it's like, well, why use anything else?
Yeah, and there's a couple that are pretty sweet. Like, uh, So we played on a shared Steam account because we were trying to get as many of us playing as possible for guides and stuff. And so I started over on Friday because I want all the achievements. And I did
Good
an
man, good man. I'm
I
sure
have a
Otten would agree as well. Good man.
I have a problem. But I did an area I did in the last playthrough, and I guess I just checked a different crate than I did before and found this legendary pistol that is, I think it's EM, and that thing shreds. And I've just been playing with nothing but that for the last 20 something hours. Um, so even if you go through and replay it, like you will find things like a little different if you're not meticulously checking every single container. So I like so far finding a couple things I didn't find on my first playthrough.
Are there any other large differences that you've come across in maybe the different ways that you approached things or skills that you had prior to
I
going
mean,
into a new space?
I leveled to 20 a lot faster because I knew what the quick and easy achievements were, or not achievements, quests. So I burned through those to get to 20, and now I'm just burning through the main quest to get to New Game Plus. Um, but like all the planets are in the same places, systems are in the same places, so the whole like thousand worlds was not as, I don't know, dynamic as I thought, or as they kind of portrayed it originally. And I think that was probably the one thing that was, I don't know, I don't want to say disappointing. I think the way it works is the way you would expect it to for a Bethesda game.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
one of
that's why I
those.
said that it was, if you have played their games, you do know what to expect.
Yeah. Yeah. The one annoyance I'll say is that I have now cleared out the same abandoned mine about 23 times.
Yeah, there is that kind of aspect to it where I was just like, do I really want to do this again? And I was like, no. So then I went back to the main story and I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna power through the main story, and you kind of have to because they do gate quite a bit behind it.
Yeah. I mean, there's companions that are gated behind it, there's abilities. Um, I mean, those are probably the two main things for the most part, but it's I'm level 20 and I've burned through, I'm up to the first temple. Um, and one of the things I learned recently on Twitter was that apparently if the system is red, you should not go there. That's their way of telling you you are under leveled for this. And so I kind of learned that the hard way by being like, oh, I'm going to go to this system and just getting my shit rocked. Um, so there is no level scaling. It's just these areas are X level and you better be leveled up enough.
Yeah, so immediately that was a kind of an interesting thing for me showing up when I got to the cowboy planet for the first time. I was level 5 and was seeing like level 8 enemies around, and I thought I was going to get rocked, but it wasn't too much of an issue. But how does, I mean, because you've played through so much more. How does the enemy scaling work? Does it just continue to like level up gradually, or is there like a cap?
I don't know yet. There's no level cap per se in the game, from what Pete Hines said.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, there's been times where I was like level 10, taking on level 25s and just rocking their shit. But I think part of that is how you spec out. Like I spec deeply into ballistic weapons and rifles, and so I'm doing a lot more damage than maybe if I spread my perks out a little bit more.
Mm,
Um, I think it's just each system has like set levels, and that's just kind of how it is.
the way it's going to
Um,
be.
Yeah,
yeah,
I think that's what I encountered as well. It didn't seem like it really mattered too much because, like Rut said, I was level 10 being a level 20 thing, and it just kind of worked out.
You just feel good after it. Fuck
yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
I'm
well,
the
I didn't
best.
even notice the level at first, and I was like, wow, this thing is taking a little while to beat. Oh, that's why.
You know, you do that, and they don't have dual wield.
Huh.
Um, I don't
Yeah,
think.
that's kind of one thing I was a little disappointed in. And I never figured out if it's in there, but I don't think it is. But yeah, no dual
I
wielding.
don't remember seeing it in perks, but it's possible I missed it. But yeah, no, dual wield would be dope.
Especially if you could have like an energy pistol one hand and a regular pistol on the other, and just kind of keep. I bet reloading would become far more difficult to do in a
Yeah,
fast paced scenario.
yeah. I get why they don't, but man, it'd be cool. Some of those weapons would be pretty fun with dual wield.
Yeah, like there's a pistol that you get that has incendiary rounds, for example. That would be pretty
Ooh.
cool to dual wield.
Yeah, the SMGs, stuff like that. Just you're running around as Master Chief, and then you can just build the Pelican like that one person did.
um, Talking about, like, we've talked a little bit about skills. How did you guys find the skill tree system versus the idea of like the special system, or Skyrim's more kind of like branched
Linear.
evolution?
Uh,
I thought it was a little different, and like I said earlier, some of it is gated behind doing like the main quests and things like that. So having all this stuff in there, you can really miss it. Like I think the jetpacks is a big one. If you don't do the jetpack skill, you don't have it, like, and you don't even know that you can get it there. The game doesn't really tell you, so you really have to look at it yourself and kind of go from there.
yeah, I got 50 hours in before I realized I needed to spec into jetpacks. I just assumed I was doing something wrong.
Yeah, I assume that, you automatically had it, but no, you do
Yeah.
not.
Well, especially they make such a big deal out of it when they're like, "Oh, like let's get you a boost pack. Like let's get you flying." It's like, "Oh, cool." And I got it, and I'm like mashing the double jump. It's like nothing's happening. Okay,
Yeah, and
that's
even the
weird. It might
NPC will
just suck.
be
She'll
like,
yell at you.
yeah, she's like, "Well, why don't you just use the jetpack?"
It's like, Sarah, I don't have it.
Like, oh, I didn't turn it on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
um,
happens.
I do like the progression of it though, where you have to use the skills to level them up. So
mhm.
it's not just like,
Yeah, I did
you
think
know,
that was better than just, clicking in a menu and spending points or whatever.
it made it a little less linear to where I can't just be like, all right, I'm gonna save up 4 levels and max out lock picking. Like, no, I need to level up, actually do the skill, level up, so on and so forth. I think it prevents the ability for you to, especially in the weapons tree, like overpower yourself right out the gate. Like you have to actually mow down
With that,
enemies.
and like it seemed to me like they wanted you to get used to the abilities first and be like, "Hey, try these out," and then if you
Hmm.
don't like them, maybe then you can move on and try something different.
Yeah.
I think I do really like that aspect, but then I was playing and I was looking where to allocate a new skill point. I was like, oh, okay, I could use more stealth. And then it's like, oh, execute 10 stealth kills. And it's like, well, that's never going to happen. I have a shotgun, a pistol. I guess I have a melee weapon, but I'm not really looking forward to using that.
Yeah, I was trying to cheese stealth. The Ryogen Industries side quest line, very difficult if you were not spec for stealth.
Interesting.
Um, yeah, you're going to be
Uh,
using a lot of chems to get through that one.
and that's an one thing that definitely I am struggling with, not being able to spec into like a strength build, is I am consistently over encumbered
Oh my god,
without
that was a
fail.
huge, huge problem for me, and I kind of learned this the hard way because, it's an RPG and you just want to pick up everything, right? So at the beginning of the game, I was like, okay, I'm going to pick up this stapler and this notepad and these random things that you probably don't need, but you want anyway. And then I started getting the message about losing oxygen and taking damage from the carbon dioxide or whatever. And I was like, huh, well, this is a problem. I'm just gonna have to get rid of all this stuff. So I then just like chucked it all in my space cargo and never looked at it again.
I've become really good friends when you land on New Atlantis and there's like that vendor right there.
Oh yeah.
I've become really good friends with the bench that's like just across the gap, to
Oh,
like
well
go
played.
and wait at the bench for 24 hours, come back to the vendor, sell more of my shit, go back to the bench, wait another 24 hours, come back, sell more.
So, pro tip: the arsenal, or there's a gun shop in the residential district that she usually has 12,000 credits worth of
Okay,
selling. And she's not too far from the fast travel point.
that's good to know. Um, I did like that from that like selling base, you can sell from ship inventory. Um, but it is kind of wild to me, like how much you need to be, like how much you should be like out collecting resources and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and then just how heavy they are once they get into your inventory.
Yeah, that's why I was surprised the encumberment system is so present because it's like, well, you want me to go get all this stuff, but then it's like, then I have to micromanage it, and I don't want to do that.
hmm hmm
It got to the point where literally all I pick up is ammo and guns, and then I just sell
Yes,
guns.
that's exactly how I ended up at, like 15 hours in. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get the ammo and be done with it.
I also
I
maxed out right out the gate. I went to max out the like weight training or whatever that gives
mhm.
you like 100 more, and then payloads for the ship, and then I didn't have problems anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm like Robert and Adams on our team, he was like 20 minutes in and he was already complaining about being over encumbered because he's a hoarder. Um yeah, so
Oh,
I
I
thought
was.
that was really funny.
Well, I did the mission where the science base on like asterisk 2 or whatever the planet is, where that base is getting attacked by spacers. And
So yeah.
by the time I went through it, got over encumbered a quarter of the way through it, and then just kept going. When I got back, when I got back, I had 390 out of my like 145 I could carry, and it's
Nice.
like, oh man, this is gonna take some time to sell it all.
The best part is your companion is like, "Will you stop picking shit up?" Um
Oh yeah, Sarah would yell at me for it all the time.
yeah.
And she's
Yeah.
just not the nicest person, that Sarah. Which is I first loaded up the game, and then the second verse you hear Heller is Damien Haas, who I know from Smosh and from Fire Emblem. And then you get to Amanda, and it's like, oh, hello, Laura Bailey. Like, here she is.
Yep.
So for those, the one of the biggest consensuses that I have been seeing in discussion uh, across those who have reviewed and played and those who have already steamrolled through the game is that the optimal way to play Starfield is to burn through the main story on your first playthrough, get to New Game Plus, and that's where you do your like get everything. So, what's the deal with New Game Plus? What is the big hullabaloo about it?
Okay, do you really want me to say it because it is kind of a huge
It's kind of a
spoiler?
big spoiler. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? Okay, so
Oh
Yeah.
there's
yeah.
a lot of like story stuff and not just mechanics.
Yeah. Okay, so the whole like design philosophy behind New Game Plus is related to something that directly happens in the main story. And I
Okay,
think that's why people are like, "Whoa, like this is like a really unique New Game Plus."
The way they
interesting.
handle it is pretty smart. I have not beaten the game, but Isaac shared it in one of the Slack channels, and I read it anyway. But it's definitely a unique way to handle New Game Plus and starting
Yeah,
over.
and I think it makes sense with like the space sci-fi setting too. Like when you see it, you're like, "Oh, okay, I can see why they did that."
Yeah, yeah. When he shared that, I was like, "Oh, that makes total sense. Like that's a genius way to do it."
Yeah, and even I, like, when I first saw it, I was like, "Huh, well, I mean, it kinda sucks that we can't talk about it in the review, but there it is."
Mhm.
Yeah,
My guess, and again, from someone only like 4 or 5 hours in, and I'll see when I get to the ending because apparently I'm just going to be playing the main storyline. But my shot in the dark guess is going to be that it will be something like Interstellar, that you'll have a chance to like go through a black hole or a wormhole and end up like timeline wise back where you started, but with like all of the knowledge. But that's just my guess. And saying again,
Something like that.
okay, cool, cool, cool,
Yeah.
cool. I'm
But I
excited for
do
that.
like that New Game Plus is basically just like start over from scratch with the skills and like experience and level that you were already at. So you're not like having to completely restart from scratch. And
Mm,
especially with a game like Starfield that basically has unlimited levels, it it kind of allows for replayability. Um, which
without
I think
shooting
sometimes New
yourself in
Game
the
Plus
foot.
it can be frustrating
Mm,
because you've got to start again. You've got to start over. Um, but yeah, I'm
Yeah,
burning
you
through
do.
story now.
And it's not really a spoiler, but one other aspect of New Game Plus that I thought was interesting is that there's a set of skills that will kind of stack, so you won't just re-get them. You'll get like upgraded versions of them.
okay, cool. Man,
But
it seems
it's
like
you.
they're doing good things.
Yeah, it's a great way for them to handle it. And I think it's why a lot of people have been like, just play through the story first and then do everything else because it makes a
Cool.
lot of sense. Like you're gonna lose all that progress when you do New Game Plus anyway. So go through New Game Plus, get the perks of it, and then
Yeah,
min
and I
max your
think that's why
character.
they kind of gated stuff behind the main story. They're like, we really want you guys to do the main story this time. Don't be like, Skyrim and just go off and do whatever.
I think
Yeah,
last week on
Skyrim,
the
I did every
podcast,
achievement but the main quest first.
yeah, last week on the podcast when we were talking about it, no one could even like truly recall like the series of events that lead you to the final battle because it's such like a blip on everyone's
Yeah.
experience of Skyrim.
The guild missions are way more fun than the main story.
Yeah,
Mm.
I
Hands
mean, I
down.
feel like it was like that in Oblivion too, but at least I remember like the whole like Oblivion gates thing and having to go after those.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm
liked I liked that Skyrim had like a lot more depth to it in terms of like literal depth. And that there was like a city underneath the ground that you could explore in like a really big way. Um I think that the way they kind of handled that design philosophy of the world in Skyrim definitely bled into Starfield as well.
mm. um we've spoken a little bit about the different planets. That the idea of thousands of planets isn't entirely true, and that there are a number that are barren and stuff. Um, how do you guys think they did with implementing so many different worlds? Do you think that they nailed it, or are there like irks that you have about the idea of traveling to so many planets for things?
Like for me personally, I kind of like it was I really liked it at first, and then after a while you kind of realize that they use a handful of like the same types of planets. Like you've got like an ice planet or one that's too warm or one that's like toxic, and then they've got kind of the same sort of rocky environments and maybe a couple few outposts, and then you go in there and you do your thing, and and that's kind of it. So once you kind of get over like the awe of it, I think it kind of does get repetitive in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm 70/30 on it for the most part. Like I think the way they did it is good. Like it I think their goal behind the planets was to focus on resource collection and outposts, um, more so than like true exploration. But there's also the fast travel system that I think was a smart play on their end as well. In
Oh
terms of
yes, the fast travel system was like a lifesaver because you spend so many hours and then clicking out into the maps and the menus, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
do I have to do this again? But luckily, you can just go into like the quest menu, and if it's like go to X planet or whatever, you can just fast travel through there. And I ended up doing that towards like the back half of the game for most of it.
yeah, yeah. The fast travel system, like I didn't realize it at first, but if you've been somewhere, you can just immediately land there. You don't have to do the grav jump or any of that kind of stuff. Um, and then like in system travel is very quick, very short load screen. Like I think they did a really good job of optimizing the travel process of the game. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, my first few hours was definitely plagued with the idea of like, oh, okay, now I've got to run all the way back to my ship, and then from my ship get in the cockpit. And sometimes I'd press A on the door instead of X, and I'd get into the ship and then not into the cockpit, and then I'd open up the star menu. It and I very, very luckily stumbled into, oh, I can just be anywhere and teleport to a different planet.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
That's pretty much the exact same experience that I had. And when you
Yeah.
realize that you can just fast travel immediately, you're like, "Oh, well, I could have been doing that the whole time."
It's like I almost came into this podcast with beef about too many loading screens. It's like, oh no, I'm just an idiot.
Yeah, yeah, once
Skip
you
all of
realize that
those.
you can just skip everything, it's nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, and its benefit too, there's this dude on Cydonia, that you're literally just, like, collecting comic books for him. I don't know if the quest ever fucking ends because I have collected 16 for him and he's still looking for more. But you're literally just jumping from Cydonia to Atlantis, Cydonia to Neon, Cydonia to whatever, and just buying 100 credit book and bringing it back to him over
Mhm.
and over and over again. Um, I cannot imagine what that would be like if you had to go to your ship, go into orbit, select the planet, grav jump, land again. Like that would be brutal. Um, that would make me quit, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would too, just because of how tedious it would get.
Yeah. Yeah. They definitely said, like, okay, we have a shit ton of planets. How do we make them not a pain in the ass to navigate? Um, and I think they did a pretty good job nailing that. I do wish the planets in the part of me wishes that they hadn't gone with procedural generation for the planets in terms of like planets roughly the same every playthrough, but it's just like random locations that are identical, and then it's 6 or 7 of them spread out across hundreds of planets.
Mm.
I think that that's like super annoying, and they probably could have reduced the scope of the planets and made them a little more handcrafted.
Yeah, I think having a little more, like, iconic locations could have gone a long way, like, "Oh, hey, there's this really cool thing on this specific planet, why don't we design this?" And then people will talk about it and then want to go there.
Yeah, yeah, because there's like maybe like 14 or 15 kind of like high level must visit places like the Red Mile and a couple others. But for the most part, it's just like abandoned research outpost,
Mm.
abandoned this, abandoned that, and then it's just kind of repetition each time.
Yeah,
Um,
and I kinda get what they were going for with that, like, it is space, and space is pretty empty in real life.
yeah,
So they did kind of, I guess, lean toward that maybe a little much. But I mean, in a video game, you do want to be, you do want your interest held a bit more.
I think the planets are probably one of the only real gripes I have with the game. I mean, for me, it's a 9. I'm having a great time, even 70 hours pre-launch, and now I'm another 20 hours in, maybe. Just kind of burning through it and wanting to get to New Game Plus, and I'm still having fun. So it has not worn out its welcome.
We're
Um,
gonna have to have TechRaptor podcast episode 100 be an intervention episode once you've got another 70 hours in.
Rutledge won't stop playing Starfield is going to be the title,
No,
which makes
I
sense because I
haven't.
went back to Hunt Showdown last night.
You're just like a dog that enjoys getting wet with that game.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah, I haven't done it myself with any of the planets, but yeah, I assume that like if you've got like a research outpost up here in a city down here on the planet, that you can just walk from one to another. Are there any mounts that you can get or vehicles that you get? No?
I would have
Interesting.
killed for a
No.
Mako.
Yeah, a mount
Yeah.
would have been really helpful actually because there's certain quests that have you like using a scanner and you have to look for distortions on the scanner and you have to do it on foot. So it's like, "Oh, okay, I'm
Mm.
gonna walk like 600 meters and it's going to take a while. So I'm just going to browse my phone.
Yep.
So
Yeah, because you
that's so
can't alt tab out or it
that's where the
freezes.
scanner upgrades are that you'll want.
It, it would I wish they had introduced some sort of like a land speeder or something like that.
Yeah,
would have made
it is kind of
exploration
odd
hilarious.
that they didn't, but, you know.
Well,
Unless there's just something all of us are missing, which would actually be really funny.
I'm sure we'll be able to give it like a week, and Cloud's motorcycle from Final Fantasy VII will be in the game.
Oh, man, that'd
I'm
actually be
sold.
really funny.
I mean, people have already figured out how to change the FOV, how to run DLSS upscaling. They've already made your character naked. So something's coming, I'm sure. I would not be surprised. We're gonna have a
Um,
Skyrim world. It's gonna be great.
yeah, I haven't dug too much into the mod scene because I'm cross-playing between Xbox and PC. So I don't want to do something on the PC that then makes it unplayable on my
Oh,
Xbox.
on the Xbox, yeah.
Um, but yeah, I've seen like all of the general like quality of life upgrades. I've seen people making like health bars that after like a certain range, the health bar goes orange and then red. Which there's definitely been some times that I've almost died that I just haven't been paying attention to the health bar.
Yeah.
And a weird number of Futurama related mods have already been created, like
Of course.
replacing the patch for like the constellation jacket
Planet
with the
Express.
Planet Express, or that different like juice boxes around the world are replaced with cans of Slurm and stuff.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, modding scene, it's gonna start ramping up, and we're gonna start seeing some wild stuff, I'm sure. I can't wait for the first like full planet conversion mod kind of thing. um that I almost think that they planned to have so many barren planets so that you don't need to worry about like modding in a planet,
There's
but
just
just
one you can take over.
here is a planet that is nothing. It is free space. It's like just open data on the cartridge for mods to be placed on.
That would
Yeah, I
make
can
a lot
see
of
that.
sense.
I can see that for sure, especially with, how they have officially supported mods, in the past.
Hmm. Yeah, there's already a DLSS mod as well, so like it's immediately all of the gripes that PC players normally have. I feel like most of them have been solved in days,
Yeah.
which is kind of neat.
Which isn't like unique for Bethesda games either. It's always had a very healthy modding scene, and I've always appreciated how Bethesda embraces it pretty wholeheartedly. Like, yeah, guys, just do whatever the hell you want.
Hmm.
Here's
Hmm.
the here's the stuff you need to do it. And I think that they knew what they were getting into with this, and they've definitely been like, yeah, let's just give them what they want.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's not as often that you see that being so open from the get-go,
Yeah.
which is always fun. Speaking of companions, whether they are or are not members of the Planet Express, um, what have you guys thought of? You've got like the main few companions through Constellation, and you can pick up other random ones across the place. Do you guys have a preference? Are there any that you recommend seeking out, or is it just whoever is with you?
Just depends on their like the thing I like about the companions and the crew system is like everybody has skill sets that if they're traveling with you they contribute, or if they're in their ship they contribute, or if they're in an outpost they contribute. And so it's really just kind of they give you your play style to choose from, and I really appreciate that aspect. And then obviously if you like a particular character you can just cruise around with them.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think there was that, and then, there's definitely some situations, at least in the main story, where you're like, "Hmm, should I take this character because they might be, related to this situation, or how would they react to the situation?" And I kinda went from there in terms of who I was going to bring along each time.
Yeah. My first playthrough, I just ran with Sarah the whole time. And sometimes like she would chime in, other times she wouldn't. Um, and so that was kind of interesting too, that if like a character was pissed, you can let them talk. Um, and so it adds a little bit more flavor to it.
What did you guys think of the different mini games, the persuasion and the hacking?
The persuasion I actually really liked because, There's definitely a lot of situations in the game where I didn't want to engage in combat, so I would just try to talk my way out of it, and hopefully my luck, because some of it, I do feel like some of it is based on luck, even if you have the skill. Um, but yeah, just seeing the different options, I thought was interesting. And then as far as the locking minigame, when I kind of looked at that, I was like, what year is it?
I will say it's better than the Skyrim lockpicking.
True, but it's
Um,
still a lockpicking game, and I have to do it.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Although if you level it up enough, you can basically just have it automatically finish it for you.
True, true. But the first time I saw it, I was like, no way.
Yeah, I always go. I both times I went with Space Scoundrel just to start with the persuasion stuff. So I like to talk my way out of every situation I can. Um, and yeah, there is a little bit of RNG because there's been like green options, like the plus ones that have failed, and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm level 4.
Yeah, I ended up encountering that too, and I think the best ones I ended up with were like, well, if you give me money, then that's fine too, and then I would just pay them off because if you
Yeah.
do the main story, like they just throw money at you. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, if you complete all the, because while Aaron and Isaac and Will focused on the main quest, I was doing all of the side shit, and by the end of it, I had like 1.5 million credits.
Jesus
yeah,
Um,
Christ.
it's really easy to get money in the game, which is good.
yeah, and especially like if you finish the Rangers, you get the Star Eagle, which is like, in my opinion, the most well-rounded ship in the game, and you get it for free. And if cargo space is a thing that you care about, like you can still add on additional storage modules and beef up the weapons and all that kind of stuff. You have to spec into piloting, starship design, and starship engineering to be able to really upgrade it. But beyond that, I haven't built a custom ship. Like I found the one that meets my needs, and I haven't really changed it.
I think I'll probably wait until I get further through and then build one of the stupid ships from Kingdom Hearts 2. Like how you can have like the Cactar ship and stuff and just roll around as a Final Fantasy character.
Hell yeah. And I don't know. So like when you first start in the game and you go to each place, there's a set of ships available at each. And then towards the end of my first playthrough, when I did all the side stuff, there were new ships for me to pick
Mm,
at each location. And I don't know what influences that because it wasn't piloting, it wasn't starship engineering, and it wasn't starship design because I tested that. So I don't know what triggers new higher powered ships to show up, but it does happen as you play more.
Oh man, imagine if it's part of like the procedural generated content.
Uh, Well, we have a ship guide that I put together that I think is now up to 90 ships that I've found, ranging from little insect looking motherfuckers to big ass chonky boys. I messaged Christian the other day. There's one called the Pickup, and I told him we need to just use that for Flat Fuck Friday every week, like Gators Daily does, because it's just this giant flat ship. It's phenomenal.
that's
So
awesome. Yeah, I haven't dug much into the ship stuff. And I guess with the fast travel system, I also haven't been spending much time in space. Is there a lot that will take you to space and have you doing dogfights?
yeah, the Crimson Fleet side quest, you're going to be doing a lot of space combat.
Okay. Um,
Yeah, and there's also a point in the story. You get a choice basically, and one of the choices will have you doing more space combat if you choose it. And when you see it, you'll know because it'll tell you.
Yeah.
okay.
And I actually did choose that option because I was like, I really haven't done much out in space, so let's see how it goes.
And was that a good thing or a bad thing for yourself?
Actually, I thought it was fine because at least when you're on the ship, it has lock on.
Mm.
So you can just lock onto the enemies and hopefully
I do
take
like
them
the
out
ship
quickly.
combat a fair amount. It was better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting like some of those old Star Wars games where you're just like mashing a button and it's like the most basic like laser attacks. But no, it's actually pretty interesting. And the way that you can like adjust different
Mhm.
aspects of the ship's engine like in real time, I thought was pretty cool.
It's got Star Trek Online vibes for the ship combat.
Do you
Um,
say that in a positive way or a negative way?
I loved the ship combat in Star Trek
Okay.
Online. So, and it was a lot of the similar stuff where like you would have the ship and then you could kind of adjust the systems based on what you were trying to do. You know, I think the only difference in a big way is probably you can't just say like put more shields on the rear, front, so on and so forth. But
Yeah.
the ship combat definitely has like a level of depth to it that you can spec in, and I want to be fast as shit with low shields and just be dodging people or whatever. Like I do like that a lot.
We've chatted a little bit about the different factions. I'm someone who, when they get into a game, they want to be able to complete everything, and I get that lockout paralysis.
Mhm.
Is this a game where once you're in a faction, you lose access to other things, or there's no way out?
No, with the exception of one. Um,
And is that the weird religion temple thing?
I have not done anything with the religion temple. I should probably
Okay.
like, actually spend time with that. It's the Crimson Fleet quest,
Hmm.
where it is Sistef versus Crimson Fleet, and you're basically given a choice at the end. But the rest of them, like you're not locked out. Like you can be in Constellation and the Freestar Rangers and Ryujin and what's the other one? I'm blanking. Uh, but you can be in all of them. Technically, you could just not finish Crimson Fleet and be in all five of them.
Okay.
But if you finish Crimson Fleet, you do have to make a decision.
And then what's the coin flip there? What do you get one way or another, or like am I going to lose an achievement for picking one thing versus the other?
No, there are no missable achievements. If you select Sistef, you still get the achievement you'd get if you chose
Okay.
Crimson Fleet. It's just kind of a different storyline, and the main difference is that if you choose Sistef, you lose access to the key, which is a great place to sell contraband. Because there's no
Okay.
scanning, you just go there and you can sell all the shit you pick up. But if you go to Sistef, really all you get is like the rewards are pretty much the same. The only difference is like the apparel you get, and then the type of missions you can go out on.
Okay. That's not too bad then.
Because I tried to get myself like kicked out of the Rangers just to see, didn't work.
Just not
Only way
Yeah,
possible.
to
I
do that is
did.
if you murder everyone in sight.
Oh man, I did notice that they kind of like there's not a lot of consequences for like being quote unquote bad.
Nope.
Awesome. That's great for me to hear.
Yeah, because I was playing like I did the Rangers too, and I was being, like a decent person throughout most of the game, and then there's one choice later where I just went like the complete opposite, and Sarah was like,
Um,
"I can't believe you did that," and then after that she was fine. I was like, "Oh, okay."
yeah. She's like, I'm disappointed in you, but we're still friends.
Yeah, she's like,
Yeah.
I forgot about that."
Whereas I think in like KOTOR, if I remember like back in the day, you could literally lose companions if you pissed them off.
Oh, yeah, like, if you got on their bad side for real, they would just not talk to you.
Yep.
I guess that's one of the difficulties with a game where you can go anywhere at any time and do anything and have like so many different like story flags checked or unchecked. It would just be impossible
Yeah,
to make a
so
situation.
about that actually, and I think I know exactly why they didn't really, like, delve deep into it because,
Hmm.
there was one, like, very specific one, in which you get to choose to ally with somebody, and the game kept thinking that I was not allied with them. So they kept they kept trying to shoot me, and I'm like, no, like they're supposed to be helping me, and then they're not, and then like I couldn't get the game to fix itself, so I had to go back and
Oh, is
lost some
that
of
that
that
game
progress.
breaking bug that you were
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about?
like it
Okay.
kept flagging this person as an enemy. I'm like, no, they're not.
Classic Bethesda.
Yeah, it
Um,
was really frustrating because I was like they would come onto my ship and start like shooting at everybody.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, and then like I would like shoot them down at 0 health, and they would just sit there, and the game would still say, "Oh, you're in combat," and no, I'm not, and I couldn't fast travel anywhere because of it. So, yep, definitely had
Because an
to,
enemy was nearby.
yeah, go back to an older save.
That sucks. Oh my god. Well, it's a
Yeah.
good thing. It's a good thing that the game is so adamant about saving.
Yeah. Thankfully, I had like some manual saves and some auto saves, but when that happened, I was like, I can see why the companions don't like keep track of every single thing that you do.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. Safe scumming is very much worth it in this game.
Yeah, I
Because you
was
need to go
saving
back.
constantly. I was like, oh, I did this thing. I'm just gonna save, and then keep going down this hallway, and then maybe save again.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was going through one of those persuasion tests early, when I was like trying to convince the bank robbers to give themselves up peacefully, I save scummed that a few times. I
Mhm.
was very impressed. I was not expecting that each time you like reload, that there would be new options or there would be like new rolls on chances. That I guess
Mhm.
there's just like an RNG rolling system going on in the background that's just constantly weighing up what's going on. Um,
Yeah.
Critical successes are a great feeling. Who would have
Yes. Yeah,
guessed?
especially they have like a 6 bar thing and you do a +1. It's a critical success. You're like, fuck you.
Yeah. Um, so it's, I mean, for a lot of people out there playing, it's very early on in Starfield. I've only gotten a few hours in and I'm level 10, and you guys are, you know, definitely through. From early internet takes, from your own feelings, your own vibes, and kind of looking at where the modding scene already is and where we know it will end up in the future. Do you guys think that this is the scale of victory that Xbox was after, that Xbox and Bethesda were after?
I think this is a success that they've needed. I
Hmm.
think, you know.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think it is. It still is a success, but I think at least on the review side of things, they were probably wanting at least in the 90s, and they did not unfortunately get that. And I can understand why some sites, like we gave it an 8, or I gave it an 8, and some sites went even lower. And I did check out their reviews to see what they were talking about, and I do think some of what they said was pretty fair.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't found a review where I was like, "No, that's fucking wrong." Except for
Hmm.
the one dude that gave it 100 out of 100 and still put cons in the
Oh,
review.
yeah,
And I'm
no.
like, that doesn't make any sense. But no, I think all the lower scored ones, like I read through them too, and I was like, you know what? I can understand how that would be frustrating. Or you would like,
Yeah, I'm looking at Open Critic at the moment, and it says that there's 100 critic reviews currently, and that it's at an 88 average.
mm-hmm.
That's pretty good, and a lot of people try to downplay that, but I think they need to just take a step back, go outside,
Touch
interact more in the
grass.
real world. Yeah, like how I don't understand how a high 80 is a bad thing, but people
Hmm.
were having complete meltdowns over it from what I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's been some very capital G gamer takes on Starfield. We all woke up this morning to watch that insane clip of that Twitch streamer arguing about a game having a pronoun option, which is in a game where you can travel between planets and shoot aliens and fly around on a jetpack. That's just the weirdest, hottest fucking take.
Not
Mm-hmm.
only that, but I feel like it's something in the game that you don't really see. Like they're not like shoving it in your face all the time. It's just
Hmm.
there for you. Like, hey, this is your character, so customize it how you want.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very, I mean, for some people it is a big thing, but it is a very small thing that in the grand scheme barely even gets used.
Yeah,
So
so to like complain and then cry about it on a Twitch stream, I think that person really needs to get a life.
yeah, I'm in the boat too. Like it just, if there's anything you want to complain about with Rage, it's the fucking ladders. And
The
that's it.
ladders And I would say the map system, especially
Map
like the
system.
absence of local maps,
The
like
local map, yes.
really frustrated me. Like there's one area that I was just in for like over an hour trying to figure out how to get around it because they block you off at various places, and I'm like, I just don't know where to go.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's once you get the hang of the cities, it is easy to know where to go, but that first initial time you go in, you're like,
Mhm.
"Where the fuck am I supposed to
Yeah,
go?"
well, it gets worse later. There's a specific part in the main story where you're in this like laboratory, and it's like there's different versions of the laboratory, and at the same time when you're in it, and you'll see when it'll make sense when you're in there, but like
Okay.
trying to navigate around this like maze of doors and doors that you can't go into, and you have to
Yeah.
like power up doors and find batteries and all sorts of stuff, and it's just like I really could use a local map.
Yeah. It's very strange too because Skyrim had a very robust local map. And so I don't understand the omission. Like
Mm.
for
Yeah,
like the side
it's so
places,
weird.
whatever. But like New Atlantis, Neon, Cydonia, give me a map, man.
And it all comes
Um,
up in like weird wireframes, and it's like I get that you're giving me an option on a map to teleport to one of these waypoints, but there's just no other information. I explored every region except the residential when I was finding a place to sell stuff,
mhm.
because I would not think go to the residential district to find shops.
Yep.
That's
There's
just
3 shops there. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. It was I mean for me it's one of the detractors is the local map.
Yeah, the
Um,
map system like really angered me.
yeah.
It's
Well,
definitely a negative.
even in like Skyrim, you could pull up and see where your house was in each city. If you forget where your fucking house is in these cities, you're gonna be wandering
Oh,
for
oh
like
yeah, or
especially Aquila City.
yeah, you're gonna spend like so much time just wandering around, and that can get really frustrating too.
Yeah.
So what's the deal with ladders then? Because I don't think that I've encountered any ladders.
Oh,
You probably don't have a
oh
big enough
no.
ship yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Um, like it
They're
got to
just
the point
really
that I just
annoying.
yeah, because like some ships have like 2 or 3 levels,
Hmm.
and to get between them, you have to take a ladder, and the ladder takes a solid like 15 seconds to go up per level, and you're just like, no. And so that is a frustrating thing for me to the point that
Is
like I only go to the cockpit in the Star Eagle. Um, I will transport to the cockpit and then I will stand up to go to my storage. I will not go in through the
is
hatch.
is that why the pickup flat fuck Friday ship is so much better, that it's all just a single
I
level?
should buy that and check actually, because if that is just a flat, phenomenal.
That might be the
Minus the
optimal
fact that all
ship.
of the stats are dog shit. Uh,
Yeah, the ladders, man, I did spend like maybe a minute trying to go up this one ladder that that I had to get to the middle floor on, and your character just like gets stuck on the ladder, and you're trying to get off on low, then you drop down, and then you have to get back up, and then you might go up too far, and then you have to go back down again. It's just really not intuitive.
It's hysterical that like Bethesda has created a game with all of these different settlements and planets and this and that and everything. But the thing that both of you have been like most vehemently frustrated with is something to do with like physics and traversal. That's just such like a quintessential
Yeah.
Bethesda problem.
Some of
mhm.
the like, even aside from that, some of the physics in the game are really funny. Like, man, what? Like, you shoot something and it just like flies off like really quick into nowhere. Like, okay,
I love shooting jetpacks and watching people. I think the physics engine just literally can't fucking cope because they will take
yeah,
off and then get stuck in the ceiling.
yeah. I encountered
That's
that too,
awesome.
and I just
I love
laughed
that.
and laughed the first time I saw it.
Yeah, it superb. I love doing that because it's so funny.
So it sounds like there's still plenty that I need to see in terms of the regular level of Bethesda hilarity.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah, I mean
oh
between
yeah.
like NPCs, like just like walking into stuff, or The one that I got a lot was a NPC. Like I would go to talk to them, and their mouth would start moving, but the dialogue wouldn't click in until like a couple seconds later. Like, okay, well, we're in a Bethesda game, I guess.
Yeah.
Definitely in a Bethesda game
Yeah.
sometimes.
So before we sign out, we've covered mechanics and story and gameplay elements for better for worse, chatted about things that we liked and disliked. Are there any other standout things from Starfield in both of your combined experience that you reckon it's worth shouting out to say, like, this is a must do or something you should avoid?
Well, I think, well, we mentioned earlier, but the story, like getting through the story, I think is really important. And a couple of my favorite things in the whole game are in the story. And when you see them, you're going to be like, whoa, like, why did they hide this from us? Or, why can't we talk about this? But like when I got there, I was like, wow, this is like super interesting, and I want to keep being here, and I want to keep doing this quest. And luckily, they are pretty long quests. But yeah, when you see them, you'll be like, okay, like this is really cool. Like things are starting to pick up now, and like all this other stuff can take a break, and I'm just gonna focus on this.
I I think the story is definitely a must. And the faction missions. Each of them is a, I don't know, 6 or 7 hour kind of quest
Wow.
line for the most part for each one. That's very much worth doing for the rewards, but also just to like you'll learn a lot more. You'll visit different planets. Uh, and then honestly, a lot of the activities, like one of the things that I liked is rather than having to talk to people to get some quests, like you'll just be wandering through a city, somebody will say something and it'll add a new activity or
Oh
quest to
yeah,
it.
I did like that as well. So you didn't have to just go up to NPCs every time, like on a quest marker.
Mm.
And sometimes you would get like random people who you didn't want to talk to do that, and it was really satisfying to tell them to go away.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting quest. Nope.
Yeah, like the super fan guy who you can recruit. I was like, I don't want
No,
you.
you
Get out of
have to
here.
recruit him
No, I,
because all he does is hype you up the
oh,
entire game.
I don't
Yeah,
want
Rut,
it.
Rut
You land
has
the
Rut
ship
has
and he's
famously
like,
low self-esteem. That's why he keeps going back to Hunt Showdown. He needs the positive encouragement from somewhere, and apparently
"Yeah,
it's the super
I
fan.
need
This
it."
dude didn't even know my name, so I was like, get out of here.
Yeah, no, I
Fake
absolutely
fan.
went with the hero worship trait because every time you land the ship, he's like, "Fantastic landing," and
Oh
stuff
my
like
god,
that.
see, I would get tired of that real quick.
I love it. It cracks me up because I loved that interaction in Oblivion too. I thought it was really
Would only do it if you could, like, take him and then just, like, chuck him out into space or something.
funny. I mean, I would not be surprised if there was a way to do that. Like I wonder if you can board a ship, have him as your traveling companion, say wait here, and then destroy the ship.
Oh God.
Oh, I kinda wanna try that. I mean, it's so
Well,
dark, but.
Yeah.
this is this just going to be like Koroks 2.0? Like,
Just
see how
eating
many worse
Koroks.
situations you can get this thing into.
Yeah, I mean, we're only what 2 days into Starfield early access. I'm sure we're gonna see some real effed up clips over the
Yeah.
next coming weeks, and I'm here for that.
Excellent. Well, thank you everyone for taking some time to listen to this with us. If you're wanting to, go ahead and leave a comment. Let us know either what mod are you most hoping gets added to Starfield, or did you also have issues with ladders, like apparently people have been having. Um, but that will be it from us here today at TechRaptor. Be sure to check out TechRaptor.net for more gaming news, reviews, and more. And go ahead and check out Aaron's review of Starfield. See if your experience lines up. Aside from that, be sure to review and like this podcast. But that's going to be it from us to you guys, and we should have Otten and Scrappy back next week. Thank you all very much.